Today here at the Rock Pit, as a part of the Rock Pit's collaboration with the Rock Is Not Dead Festival, I am joined by Dio Rising frontman Bobby Miller. How are you, Bobby? And welcome to the Rock Pit.
Yes, Andrew, thank you so much for inviting me down to the Rock Pit, which is wonderful, to be honest. I was certainly not expecting this. I'm extremely well, extremely proud of supporting the Rock Is Not Dead event. I've known Shane since the first time he put one of these events on, and me and my wife went down there to support it, which was really, really good. And we said, like, you know what, we'll go there again if he puts another show on. So we've actually bought tickets. Funnily enough, Andrew, we bought tickets because we jumped in straight away. And then, of course, I bumped into Andrew a few weeks back, or a couple of weeks ago, actually, and he says to me, he said, "Hey, Bobby," he said, "I've had a band pull out for whatever reason. They pulled out of the event, and he said I need another band." He said, "Would Dio Rising be interested in doing it?" And I said, "Well, yeah, yeah." He said, "It's a 30-minute spot. We've got a 30-minute spot. You're going to be early on in the day, second on the bill or something." And I went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it." So I spoke to the boys. They all went, "Yeah, come on, let's do this." So that's how that happened. You know what I mean? It was really quick, and we're stoked to be on the bill, to be honest, because of some great bands, Dead City Ruins, and some of the other bands, Audio Rain, killer bands. So we're really stoked to. I actually played with Audio Rain. Oof, I'm going back probably about 6, 7, 8 years ago. I played a show in Adelaide with my original band, Kiss the Viper. And Audio Rain were part of that particular. It was called the Loud Fest or something. It's called, and we played that particular event, and it was a really good event. But I always remember Audio Rain and watched it. I'm going like, yeah, these guys are cool, real cool. So I'm really keen to catch up with those boys again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's such an amazing lineup. And you'd know
Mm.
from being last year, there are a few return bands, Tailor-Made Rejects, Slither, to name a couple. Both incredible bands live, and welcome additions back to Rock Is Not Dead to the Awakening. Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, Bobby. From what I know, you're from Melbourne, before moving to Gold Coast.
I've got a bit. How long have you got, Andrew?
Oh, I've
I'll
got,
give you the thumbnail sketch.
yeah.
I've been around the block a few times.
Hmm.
Now, I originally came over to Australia 23, 23 years ago. And when I first came to Australia, I needed to get myself, because I'm a heavy metal fan. I'm a heavy metal fan. I'm not exactly like the ultimate historian, but I think I know me metal. You know what I mean? And I go back, when I say metal, I go back from like 1975 onwards. You know what I mean? So, and when I say metal, in metal terms, I count everything from Journey to Slayer. You know what I'm saying there, Andrew? So, and all those bands I've seen in between. You know what I mean? We sort of so coming to Melbourne, the first thing I wanted to do was to find out where the local rock scene was, the local metal bands were playing, and things like that. And and I just used to take off on my own. My previous partner, my ex missus, she would just sit in and she wasn't bothered about getting involved. And I wanted to know. I'd just come to this beautiful country, and I'm living in Melbourne, and it was a simple case of I wanted to know what was going on. So I went out. I used to get. I don't know if you remember the Beat magazine in Melbourne. And I used to pick copies of that up, and I'd flick through the pages and I'd look through all these clubs. And the company I was working, I'm a sheet metal worker by trade. So I was working in a sheet metal factory. Hey, sheet metal, metal. So there you go. So I was working in this factory, and there was another guy there who was into rock and metal and stuff like that. And I'd said to him, I said, "Well, where are the clubs? Where am I going? Where do I need to go?" And he pointed out all these places, like it wasn't called the High Five Bar at that time, I don't think. or Max Watts it is now. It might have been called the Hi-Fi Bar.
High
And there
five.
was those guys. There was the Corner Hotel. There was the Central Club. There was a few places that had sort of low-level bands, and I wanted the grassroots bands, if you know what I mean. You know, your sort of second-tier bands, if you know what I mean. And I hooked into the band. You may remember a band called Pegasus.
Yes.
There was a band called I Fear, still going. There was Vanishing Point. There was Crimson Fire, and all these power metal bands. Oh my God, I just fell in love with all these bands. I just loved them. Crimson Fire in particular were one of my favorites, and uh, and I've become good friends with most of those guys over the years, you know, and that was how I started. So what happened then was there was a like a website called Melband, and it was for musicians, you know, guitar players wanting a bass player, or a band wanting a bass player or a singer, and stuff like that. And I went onto this site, and uh, it was um, it was a guy, Matt Hankin, his name was, an old friend of mine, and he was looking for a rhythm guitar player to play in his new wave of British heavy metal band. And I looked at it straight away, and I'm going like, oh, I was in the new wave of British heavy metal. I had a band in the UK called Damocles, and we were part of that new, you know, from about 79 to 86, 87 or whatever. And we were part of that, of course. We were only low level, by the way, Andrew. You know what I mean? We never got any up. We never got further than the first rung of the ladder, if you know what I mean. But nevertheless, we were part of it. So I phoned this guy up, and he said, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I said, well, look, I'm just getting my chops back together on guitar. I'm probably a little bit ropey, but I said, at the end of the day, I said, I answered your advert because I was actually in the new wave of British heavy metal. And he said, oh yeah, what was your band called? I said, you wouldn't even know my band. He said, try me. And this guy was probably the biggest historian of new wave of British heavy metal, even more than me, than ever come across in my life. And I told him my band name. I said, oh, I was just in a band called Damocles. You wouldn't have heard us because we only had a 4-track demo. He said, I've got it. I'm like, you can't have it. I said, we never sent it to Australia. He said, I've got it. I've got it. I couldn't believe it. It was like a mind spin, complete mind spin. And I went, wow, that's insane. So we got talking, you know, we had coffee. He said, I don't care if you can play guitar or not. He said, you're in the band. So I started playing that.
Yeah.
Then, as it progressed, we did that for a number of years, maybe 4 or 5 years. And then I got asked to join a band called British Steel. Now, this, you've got to remember, this was when the 30th anniversary of British Steel was out. So we're talking 2010.
Yeah.
2010. British Steel, anyway. So, and we were going to do one-off gig, just one. We are going to play the entire Judas Priest British Steel album, plus maybe Hellbent for Leather and some other tracks, just to fill out a set. So this band asked me to play with them, and I ended up playing with them. But we played a club in Frankston, and we had to close the door because there was over 400 people pumped into this club in Frankston, down in Melbourne there.
Yeah.
And it was mental. It was great. It was nuts. It was nuts, you know. We had the bike, we had everything, and it was so much fun. So, of course, we carried that on. And it's only up until about 4 or 5 years ago that band folded up. I now am the only surviving member of that band, believe it or not.
Oh,
But I
wow.
was the last one in.
Yeah, yeah.
But we had a few lineup changes, new drummers, different guitar players, different bass players, and things like that. And but it was great fun. We just did a whole bunch of Judas Priest classics round Melbourne. We played Adelaide, and we played Sydney, and we played Brisbane as well. And over the years, but we had a whole heap of fun with that. That was great. So then after that, I started writing again. Started writing really extensively then, and I joined a guitar player in Melbourne called Mick, and we put this idea together, and we were going to call it Kiss the Viper. And this Kiss the Viper it's a name that I've had for a number of years previously, and and it's a little bit cheesy and it's a little bit naughty, but back in the day, we always called, shall we say, a woman's area. We always called it the Viper because it's likely to bite you. if you know what I mean. So, but you couldn't call it Kiss the Pussy or whatever. You couldn't go down that road, you know what I mean? So Kiss the Viper works really well. And that particular project is your back to the sort of 80s hair metal kind of style, tongue in cheek. A lot of my songs are a little bit suggestive, but with a comedy element to it almost. Not quite Steel Panther, but there's a suggestiveness in some of the songs. Not all of them, but some of them. And that was the premise of that. So we did a couple of albums, or I produced a couple of albums, and we had a whole heap of fun with it. Then progressing from that, I'm still writing, and I'm still signed to Metalopolis Records in Germany for Kiss the Viper, but it's only me. It's only me now, and so I produce my own stuff here in my studio here, and yeah, so I've got a new single coming out with that in probably about a month or two. I'm just waiting for a video to be completed on that. And that's it. I've done other projects. I've sung on albums for guys in Denmark online. I've done stuff. I've done a power metal concept album called Retribution. I've done an AOR album for a band called Delta 7. There's only two of us in that band. There's me and John Power, who lives in Melton, just north of Melbourne there. And so I've got a few things that I do, and but saying that, getting back to the Dio Rising thing, I've wanted to do a Dio band for probably 20 years. Now, when I was living in Melbourne, there was two Dio bands, which I thought was too many for Melbourne anyway. You know what I mean? So there's no point me starting another band, a Dio band, that is. And I've had it on the back burner for probably 20 years. So moving up to Brisbane, I've been in Brisbane and in Queensland for about 4 or 5 years now. And I bumped into a bass player, and this bass player, Zoran Marakic, his name is, absolute killer bass player. He's toured with Paul Di'Anno around Europe, around Australia. He's toured around Europe with some death metal bands, Anoxia, and there's another band, Sabir, and some other bands he's played with. He also toured Japan with Hobbs Angel of Death, which Peter Hobbs was a good friend of ours, actually. God rest your soul, Peter. And so he's got a good pedigree. And me and him hit it off straight away. We were talking about our influences. And my influences were Dio, and his work were also Dio. And he said, we should form a band. And I went, I've been trying to form a Dio band for like 20 years. He said, well, if you're going to do it, he said, I'm in. So that was it. And we ran with that for probably 2 years, 18 months, 2 years. And we could never really find a guitar player. We could never really find a drummer because, as well, it's like Melbourne, Andrew. Guitar players are playing in 18 different bands. Oh, the good ones are, you know what I mean? And you just can never find the right players. And it was just one of those things that I'd approach some guitar player and I go, oh yeah, this guy's a great guy. He's a real cool shredder. And I go, yeah, he'd be perfect. You talk to him, he said, oh yeah, no, I can't do anything because I'm going on tour with this band and I've got this other band and I've got my wedding band and I'm in a covers band doing Australian rock. Yeah, okay, I get it. Forget it. See you later.
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of sort of comparing and MCing for various functions over the years. Even in the UK, I was an MC and I did quite a lot of that kind of work. And I got asked to do last year the Kiss convention down in Beanley Tavern. And we had a band called Kiss It. We had the Kisperience boys, the makeup guys and all that kind of stuff. They were playing. But I was there and I was sort of emceeing, but I watched this guitar player and he's Kiss It play all the unmasked period of Kiss. So it's all Bruce Kulick.
Yes.
Guitar parts, you know what I mean? So I'm watching this guy play and I'm going like, my God, this guy's fantastic. He can play all the Bruce Kulick shit, you know what I mean? I'm going like, geez. So my wife, who was like the event manager of this particular event that we were doing, she said, well, you should ask him for your Dio project. Like as if he's going to be in about 19 bands. So she said, well, just ask him. So I asked him, and Coach, I said, hey, great show. Thank you. Thanks for that. How many bands are you in? He said, oh, I'm just in Kiss It. I was just like, I said, "Do you want to play guitar in my Dio band?" He went, "Yeah, yeah, I love Dio." I was just like, "Yeah, you beauty." It was a gift from God. I tell you, it was so cool. And I was stoked. So I gave Michael the set of songs, and he went off learning them. I just needed a drummer. Now we got a drummer in, and he was amazing. His name was Matt. His sleeve tattoos and tattoo, you name it, and full on metalhead, real cool drummer. And we had one jam with him, and it was sensational, really good. But he went, "I can't do it. I'm too busy at work. I've got my original band. I've got this cover band I'm doing, blah, blah. Yeah, I can't commit," which was great because he told us after one jam.
Yeah.
So we didn't have to go down 3 months of rehearsal or whatever. And then he tells us like 2 weeks before a gig. So I was happy with that. I said, "No, it's great, Matt. It's okay. I'll find somebody else." Anyway, I phoned a mate to line up that day. And I said, the Aaron, our drummer now, and I said, "Hey, Aaron," I said, "How many bands are you playing in at the moment?" He said, "I'm just doing a bit with the original band. I've got something else. I fill in for another cover band occasionally, but I've got nothing on." "Why? What do you need?" I said, "I need a drummer for my Dio band." He said, "Oh, Dio." I said, "Do you know much Dio stuff?" He said, "No, I've never heard of any of it." I was just like, who's not heard of Dio?
That's exactly
And he
right.
said, well, what are the songs?" I said, "Oh, like Holy Diver." And "Oh, yeah, Kill Switch Engage did that, didn't they?" I went, "Yeah." He said, "I've heard that song."
God.
I went, "Seriously, you've not heard any?" He said, "No, I've not heard it." He said, "Send me your set list, send me your Spotify list or whatever." So I sent him all the stuff. And he come back, he said, "I love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it." And
Yeah.
he's in 100%. He's watched everything on YouTube of Vinny Appice, you name it, watched every Dio DVD or every live concert. He's fully into it. And he's actually turned out to be the real strong link in the band. He's an absolute killer, kick-ass drummer.
Yeah.
And I'm so pleased. So we've got the lineup up together. So we've been rehearsing with this, and we thought, okay. So I got some messages from some friends in Adelaide that want me to come down because they knew me, and they went, "Oh, as soon as your band's ready, Bobby, give us a call. We'll sort something out in Adelaide." Same again in Melbourne. I've got guys at Musicland in Melbourne and stuff like that. So when you're ready, give us a call. We'll sort something out. Got some guys in Sydney. "Yeah, Bobby, when you're ready, give us a call. We'll sort something out. We'll put you on our bill." That's great. So we've got all this stuff happening, but of course we weren't quite ready.
Yeah.
And so we've been nailing away, been punching out the rehearsals, and it's just getting better and better for us. So now, with Shane inviting us on this bill, we're sort of really pumped to sort of show. It's going to be the first. It's going to be the first Dio Rising show, of course. And we've got 30 minutes to either impress people or piss people off. It's as simple as that. You know what I mean? They're either going to give us that, or they're going to give us that. There's only two things they're going to give us. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're so stoked. We're so excited, and we're ready to rock and roll. It's going to be a great event. So there you go. So that's the thumbnail sketch. I know I went on a little bit. I don't
Yeah.
know how long you've got. I know I did go on a bit.
We've got a bit of time up our sleeve. So, from you as a music fan and obviously as a metal and a hard rock fan, where and when did you first discover Dio?
Well, Dio for me, I first discovered Dio. I'm going to show my age now. I discovered Dio in 1979 when I saw him performing with Rainbow. Now, people will go, "What, you saw Dio with Rainbow?" Yeah, yeah. "How old are you?" I said, "Older than you." And yeah. So I was 18 at the time. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw him in 1979. And then when Black Sabbath toured they did the Heaven and Hell thing.
Yes.
And then, of course, he did his Dio. He formed Dio. And the rest is history, really. I've followed Dio through his career. Certainly in the UK, every time he came to sort of Manchester or anywhere near my hometown, Manchester or Liverpool, we'd always go. We'd always go because he always had the best players. He'd have, at the time, he did have Vivian Campbell, of course, and then he had Craig Goldie.
Roland
I
Roberts.
think we saw him with Doug Aldridge
Wow.
back in the day, and Simon Wright on drums. Rudy Sarzo. He always had the best guys playing. You know what I mean? And Dio was always one of those singers. I've always said, I'm not a metal singer or a hard rock singer. I'm just a singer. I'm a singer. So I can sing pop, rock, country, ballads, metal, or you know what I mean? I can do all these different genres of music because I term myself as a singer. And I looked at Dio, and when you look at stuff like um, maybe Don't Talk to Strangers or Children of the Sea, where they start off, really delicately, in the misty morning, on the edge of time, and it's a really delicate voice, and then he'll turn it, as he's coming out of those phrases, he turns it into this Goliath of a dirty hard rock metal vocalist, and the song changes when it changes. You know what I'm saying, Andrew? And you go like, that's cool. That is so cool. And that was the one thing, like certainly with watching him do stuff like Stargazer or Man on Silver Mountain and stuff like that, it's Dio was one of those singers that he was one of a kind. He was just one of a kind. Now, I'm not saying I can do his stuff exactly like Dio does. I'm not saying that. We pay tribute to the music of Dio.
Yeah.
We are not. I mean, I'm 6'2". Dio wasn't.
No,
Without being rude.
far
You know
from
what I'm
it.
saying, Andrew? So we're not trying to look like we're not a full blown tribute act
Hmm.
that looks like everybody.
Yeah,
We are paying tribute to the music of Dio.
absolutely.
That's what we are about. Because obviously, like, I'd have to be on my knees and wear a straggly wig. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen, of course. But we are all fans of the band. We're all fans of the music, and hopefully we can pay homage. And hopefully the people, if they turn up early enough, will get to hear some of these classic songs. And there's in our set, in this particular set anyway, certainly there are no odd tracks like track 7 from Magica or whatever. These are all songs that every Dio fan knows. You know what I mean? We're talking Mob Rules, Children of the Sea, Heaven and Hell, Holy Diver, The Man on Silver Mountain. They're all the classic. It's just a classic set of Dio stuff. And that's the way I want it, and that's the way it was put together, basically.
And it's great that you mention all of that because that was one of my questions. Having formed a great friendship with Shane over the last two Rockers Not Deads and the community that he's created for rock fans and the community that he's created for celebrating new live Australian original bands is fantastic. Hearing that you guys were being added and doing a Dio set, I just thought, it's almost a stroke of brilliance, to a certain degree, because it's still showcasing our talent. I mean, you mentioned before Kiss the Viper, which is your original project, and Devon. I mean, it still allows exposure and people a gateway to go and find out more about guys like yourself that have been on the scene and crucial parts of the scene for quite some years. The whole concept of Rockers Not Dead to me, I mean, just excites me because, I mean, when you look in and away from the mainstream, we have some of the country's we have some of the world's most amazing bands on offer that, unfortunately don't get the opportunity to become household names like they did 3 decades ago. So
Yeah.
for you, is that the same sort of thing that you take away from the Rockers Not Dead festival?
Do you know what? Shane is such a historian. His knowledge is it's really, really vast. And for let's say a small time promoter like Shane to do this and stick his neck out and put on a show like this, like I said, we went to the first one, and I just went, this is just great. I didn't even know any of the bands that were playing. We just went to support it. It was down at the Koala Tavern, down just south of Brisbane there. And we just went down to support it. And I just went, I need to find out who this guy is. And I met him and we bought the T-shirt. And I said, this is great. This is fantastic. I said, you're doing a really good job. Have you got anything else coming up? And he told me that he got this one coming up later on this year, which is, of course, in 4 weeks' time. And I just thought, I've bumped into Shane a couple of times since at other events, because there's a band on there called Whiskey on the Rocks,
Yes.
who are sort of a multifaceted kind of hair metal, everything's in there. Motley Crue, Van Halen, Bon Jovi, you name it, Journey, they're all in there.
Yeah.
And Shane come up to me and he went, "Oh, Bobby, good to see you again," and all this, which was really nice. So he's actually got, for me, a genuine feel and a love for people that are actually trying to support him. If you get that, if you get what I mean, what I mean. And that went a long way with me. Like I said, I've been around the block a few times. I've met promoters, and not all of them have been good. And but Shane's he puts his money where his mouth is, and his heart's in the right place. And I wish nothing but success for him, And if I can be part of the success of this particular event, yeah, perfect, absolutely perfect. I'm stoked just to be part of it. To be honest, it really is. It's going to be a good showcase for my band. It's going to be a good vehicle for fans of Dio music to just kick back there with a drink or two and just listen to some of these classic songs. And because we're on early, it's great because I can catch all the other bands.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. So it's a double hit for me. I'm going to showcase my band early on, then I get to see all the other bands for the rest of the day, which is bloody fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. Now, who from the first Rock Is Not Dead were your favorite artists of the day?
I don't know what, I think they were called Whiskey Snakebite or something like that. I know the bass player had this big, huge Mohican. And I think they're actually touring the States, or they're going to be touring the States. But I just thought they were great. I thought they Snakebite Whiskey. Whiskey, was it called?
Yeah.
Something like that. But there was also another guy. There was another guy that really impressed me. And he was a big guy. He was a big guy, and he was fantastic. He had a great voice. There was something about his voice that I really liked. Because I'm a singer, I tend to migrate or gravitate to singers more than your whiz bang guitar players or the cool bass players and stuff like that. I like singers. I like to listen to singers. And this guy, he was a big guy. I can't remember what that band was called, but he was good. He was and I did speak to him afterwards, and I told him that I thought he was fantastic, but I had no idea what the band was called. But that was, again, it was great seeing bands that I'd never seen before. That was one of those things that me and my wife took away from that. We came away and we went, that was bloody great. What a great night out. All these bands we'd never seen before. We didn't even know they existed, of course, in the Brisbane area. And it was just so good. It was just so good. We, like I said, we already bought tickets for this event before Dio Rising were on I'd already bought tickets. I got 2 tickets.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
we already bought them because we were going. We just went, oh yeah, that's that gig again. We got to be on it. We got to go. We got to support it, and so we were already going, regardless of Dio Rising playing on the bill.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about all of this is that there is such a community around it, and I mean the feedback from every musician that was on the first Rock Is Not Dead was just the feeling of community and how good the vibe was, and how well the show was run by the guys behind it. Shane especially, he's become such a dear friend of mine through that. We were actually up there for it, my partner and myself, and we wouldn't have missed it for the world. So it's exciting that it's happening again, and that the lineup is bigger and bolder. And I mean, I will be there. I'm coming up from Melbourne for it, so is my partner.
Cool.
forward to really being a part of all of this.
Well, I hope you can catch the Dio Rising set, to be honest, Andrew. I hope you can.
Absolutely. We'll be there with bells on, my friend. So, is there anything that you would like to say in closing, just as we wrap this one up tonight, Bobby? And again, thank you for your
Well, the
time.
one thing I would like to say is, rest in peace, Ozzy Osbourne,
Yeah.
because I was in tears this morning. Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne in particular. The first single I ever got was Paranoid, 1970, and I was 9 years old.
Yeah.
So that hit me pretty hard this morning, and so much so I came across this desktop. You can see there you've got Ozzy, you've got Dio, you've got Lemmy, and Randy Rhoads,
Yes.
and I saw it and I went, I'm having that. So I picked that up this morning and made it as my backdrop because it was this one hit me harder than Lemmy
Yeah.
because I'm a big Motorhead fan as well. But yeah, it was a tough one. This because I actually watched the live stream of
Back to the
the
beginning.
concert that they did a few weeks back.
Yeah. Yeah. Did the
I
same.
stayed up from 12 o'clock at night on Saturday right through till 10 o'clock in the morning, watched it all
Absolutely. I
with
did.
2 bottles of wine and a dose of Gentleman Jack.
What a
Yeah, let's put it this way: there'd be no way I could drive the following day, that's for sure. But it was great; it was fantastic. I wouldn't have missed it for the. I was supposed to go to the gig.
Oh,
I've
wow.
actually got a shirt of it. Actually, a friend of mine who went to the gig, who lives he lives down Albany Creekway, Brisbane End. He actually picked me a shirt up and uh, and brought it back for me. So I've actually got a shirt from that gig, but that's about as close as I got to it, unfortunately. But yeah, it was sad this morning. Yeah, it took the certainly the wind out of my sails this morning for a few hours. But at the end of the day, he probably lived a lot longer than we all thought, really, in the scheme of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, God rest his soul. His music will live on forever, and that legacy will never die. It's as simple as that. So, you know, um, it is what it is. Unfortunately, Andrew, it's we're all getting. Well, I say we're all. I'm not too sure how old you are, but I'm an old fella, and we're all getting to that age where one or two of our heroes are dropping off. If you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's just the way it is. I mean, when Dio went, my God, I was inconsolable for a couple of days.
Hmm.
Phil Lynott, other Thin Lizzy,
Yep.
that was a big one for me. That was huge for me. That, oh my God, don't even talk to me for a couple of days. I was that was a tough one. That one, yeah, because Phil Lynott and Thin Lizzy were a huge influence on me when I was younger, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was lucky in many respects to see Thin Lizzy in all the different disguises, all the guises that they played through, all the lineup changes, except the original one with Eric Bell. I never saw them with Eric Bell,
Right.
but I saw them with everybody else.
Yeah.
I even saw Thin Lizzy after Phil Lynott had died when John Sykes was the singer.
Right.
Worked that one out.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean. I've seen him with Gary Moore, Snowy White.
Yeah.
Brian Robertson, I saw them on the Live and Dangerous tour, 79, maybe 79, something like that. I was
Yeah.
only about 18 probably at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it's crazy, crazy. But
It's
that's because I'm an old bugger and I got the chance to see these guys in the UK when I was living there. That's all. I mean, my main claim to fame, not to fame, but my main story is when I saw Black Sabbath on the Never Say Die tour, and just this little known band from America called Van Halen with the support band. That was in '78. I was 17 at the time.
yeah.
So,
Incredible. Absolutely.
so yeah, no, yeah, it's great stuff. Great stuff.
Look, Bob,
Great stuff.
thank you so much for your time, and thank you for running us through your own history as well as the history of Dio Rising. We can't wait to have you on the stage at Rockers Not Dead, The Awakening in Brisbane on August the 30th at the Brightside.
Yeah,
I look forward to catching up with you. I look forward to seeing the Dio Rising set. And I'd really like to thank you again for your time and for
not a problem, Andrew. Not a problem. Thank you for inviting me to have a chat. It's been sensational. you know, and if you can get some mileage out of this particular interview and things like that in promotion for the Rock Is Not Dead event, well, go for it, mate. Go for it. Do what you need to do, mate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, Bobby, thank you so much, my friend, and we'll see you on the 30th of August in Brisbane.
Speak to you then, my friend.
Take care.
All the best, brother. Bye for now.